This time is all about our most authentic self-expression, of really finding out who we are. And when we can show up in that energy, that is where our power is. That is where we make the most impact, not only for ourselves and in our lives, but for everybody that we interact with. Hello, my friends. Welcome. Anna, Alchemist of the Arts here. And today we're going to be looking at the themes and energies surrounding November's full moon, which is in Gemini on the 27th of November 2023. Okay, so there are quite a few different themes coming through, but they all seem to have this central root coming back to our sense of self-identification. Now, this is both the way that we see ourselves, but also the way in which we share of ourselves with the people around us. Now, it might seem like quite simple. We are one self, right? However, depending on the environment, the situation, how well we know people, the level of expectation from those people, from us, and our performance perhaps, we might present slightly differently. So in a work environment, we could be very, very different than to our best friend of 25 years, for example. They're going to get different versions of you most likely, because there is a level of unfilteredness that you can share. Now, why this is so important is because I feel like so many of us have been going through this massive growth process over the last few years in particular. For some, it's much longer than that. For some, it's much more recent. And it doesn't really matter how long you've been doing this. It really doesn't. What matters is what you have learned about yourself and how that has sort of triggered changes in your life. Now, we've been through these big processes over the last 6 months of re-identifying with our habits and our activities, the ways in which we're showing up and the things that we're doing. So now comes the question, where are we becoming a version of ourselves in certain situations or environments that no longer reflects that growth? Where are we holding ourselves back by keeping ourselves stuck? By keeping ourselves constrained into somebody's idea or expectation of who it is that we are. And this is really important because as the world around us changes, as social media platforms and culture and fashion, all of these things around us will change. Technology will transform the world. Expecting yourself to remain the same is almost unrealistic. It's a very good way to completely hold yourself back from fulfilling your truest potential. And what we're getting is almost this influx of, I don't want to say chaotic energies, but disruption energies. And it is very much, to me, because I work with the runes predominantly, and the way I use the runes, for those of you that don't know, I see all of the runes of the Elder Futhark as a key for an emotional experience, a life experience, something that we can embody or release depending on its aspect, and something that we can work with as a being at multiple levels. So for me, one of the key runes that's coming through is Hagalaz, which is something that does represent chaos and even destruction. But it is a sense, if you look back at the history of the runes, that Hagalaz is typified by hail, and it's this destructive force that can come into our lives that shakes things up. It can literally, in the rune poem, it destroys the crops, but then the hail turns to water. It waters the crops and helps them to grow. Now, if you wanted to look at tarot, we could go into like Seven of Pentacles energy. The theme here is, if we're constantly investing all of our life force and energy into something that isn't fulfilling for us, that isn't our truest nature, that doesn't feel like our greatest expression, then really we're investing all of our time and life force energy into something that we don't really want to grow. Now, I appreciate for so many of us, we have responsibilities, we have duties, we have jobs, we have things that we have to do. So I understand that there is this level of that sort of way of living isn't always, or doesn't always feel possible. But within all of our lives, within all of our personal circumstances, There is ground that we can gain. There is a little bit of ourselves that we can take back, that we can call back to us and release some of these expectations or some of the old habits or old ways of doing things. And one of the sort of key visuals that keeps coming through is, with all this change and expansion that you've been experiencing, you know, within this personal growth that you've been embarking upon, you might still be trying to fit yourself into a specific pigeonhole, which is a very limited version of perhaps one aspect of you, perhaps some aspects of you that you have thoroughly enjoyed. But then you feel that sense of expansion. You go through a big growth process. You go through a transformation inwardly. But then how do we express that with the outer world? So we come back to this full moon energy, and full moons are typically a time for release, a time for letting go. And what I feel like is anything that has been coming to the forefront, it could be relationships, it could be jobs, it could be habits, it could be addictions, it could be friendship circles, just the way you're spending your time on a daily basis. It could be related to nobody else but you within the comfort of your own home, say watching Netflix or something like that. We're being asked to look at what has been coming up for us in a very real and open way, not to beat ourselves up or to even do anything drastic. If it's coming to the forefront now, and especially around this full moon, it's coming through with a request that we look at what is coming up. So what is it that you would love to change about the situation? Are you still doing things that no longer feel like they're right for you? Do you feel obligated or duty bound? Do you feel like other people expect you to do this thing? Is there a level of fear there where it's like, but if I don't do that and I show this other side of myself, or if I embrace that side of myself, for some of you, it could just be spirituality, for example. If I'm overt, if I share this outwardly or show this side of myself, what are people going to think? And the reality is, sometimes we do express this deeper or a deeper level of ourselves, a more attuned version of ourselves, you know, a more authentic, a more raw version of ourselves, and that can feel really vulnerable. And in the process of doing that, some people can't handle it. Some people, it will reflect back to them things that they haven't had the courage to do. So maybe they haven't had the courage to change for themselves and or to do something for themselves. And they can give you flack for it. They could perhaps be discouraging or put you down or make fun or ridicule or even withdraw their energy or their attention. And really, I know this can be difficult. And this is why, again, we have this Hagalaz energy coming through, because there is that sense of fear of loss. But if something is so conditional, you have to change yourself, it really isn't a loss. Our goal here and our role here is to become our deepest and most authentic selves. It means going through our processes, doing our shadow work, understanding these other aspects of us that perhaps we want to heal and we want to evolve, or we want to change or get rid of completely. You know, it's why we do the work that we're doing. And I'm taking this on the assumption that if you're watching this video, it's because you yourself are interested in your own personal growth work. You could have been doing it for 20, 30 years. You could have been doing it for 5 minutes. You know, it doesn't matter. You yourself have your own journey. Nobody else will have the same one as you. And whilst that can feel really isolating sometimes, because we just want somebody else to understand, part of the journey and the process is recognizing that only you could walk your path, and equally you have a say in where that path goes. So we've touched on the kind of release aspect of this moon and some of the energies that might be coming up. One of the things I haven't mentioned is that sense of stubbornness that some of us might be feeling. Now, I am a sun, moon, Taurus in sort of classical astrology. If you understand, or if you are familiar with Taurian energy, it can be it's very fixed, and it can be very, very stubborn. You dig your heels in the ground about something, you don't want to move on it. So for some of us, there could be a sense of anger, a sense of almost entitled energy, like, but I want to do this thing. I want to be this person. I want to be this sense of self, even though we know we have outgrown it, or even though we know it isn't right for us, or no longer feels aligned for us. And I think aligned is a very good word. And it's important to remember that with alignment, it's something that is right for right now. It doesn't rule something else out forever. It doesn't mean that thing that you have to perhaps not do or not engage in, or those people, whatever it is for you, perhaps that isn't for right now, because your energy and focus needs to be on something else. Doesn't mean it's forever. And you do have a say in this process, of course. But there is this sense of, some of us might be feeling very, very much, but I want to do this. I know that if I do this, it has certain results. I know that if I am this person, this version of myself, these people understand me, these people get me. But the question is, if you were that version of yourself, do you get you? Do you feel most comfortable in your skin? Or is it just familiar? Because that's stuck, that sense of being stuck in our own familiarity because it's safe is the comfort zone, even if it's uncomfortable. And the point is, life will typically make you uncomfortable when you're in that kind of energy, until you take the stimulus to change. And Hagalaz is a force, is an external force that comes into our lives to create change, to have that shake up. And I know from experience, there have been things that I have told myself I wouldn't do, that I didn't want to do, that I wasn't going to change. I didn't jump, I didn't take action. And inevitably my hand was kind of forced. And that course of events took place anyway. So there is a sense here of, you can't go wrong, you know, but we can work with these energies. And it can feel chaotic at times. I personally have grown to understand that chaotic process in my life. And I use the energy of another rune, Laguz, to work with that. Now, Laguz is the rune of water. It is very much the rune of flow state, in my opinion, as I work with it and with the bind runes and things that I create. For me, Laguz is a sense of flow state. Now, this tells us that, you know, water is incredibly powerful, but it doesn't have to overrule or take over anything by force necessarily. We can go with the flow of those energies and still be incredibly powerful. So it's recognizing when we need to direct our energy in a very specific way, and when we perhaps need to call it back to ourselves, just to allow for the process to unfold and allow for things to evolve. So in that sense of flow, what is it that you are just ready to let go of in a really peaceful way? We might not have all the answers to everything. There could be one small glimmer of insight, as these things often happen. You might have one moment of awareness, one glimmer of insight. Your hand might be forced in a way, and suddenly you can't do that thing that you were going to do. Your plans change, or something gets cancelled, or the opportunity falls through. And as frustrating as that can be, we can easily just go into that identification of, why is this happening to me? Why is this going against everything that I want? When actually, sometimes it's those things that don't come through that work out in our favor the best. And being in that sense of flow is like, okay, I need to trust here that everything is working out for me for a reason, that there is a purpose to all of this. It's something that we lose sight of a lot. And it's, again, not to just love and light the whole situation, not that there's anything wrong with those concepts, but I don't think spiritually bypassing, for me personally, is It's not something that I like to do, and it's not something that's very healthy for me. I will say that as a person. I think sometimes we have to be conscious of the challenges, of the difficulties, without overly investing in them emotionally, without identifying into them and thinking this is all because of me. Sometimes things are because of us, directly because of our actions. And those, again, are growth processes. Other times things happen, and it's these outer forces, things that don't come to be, things that we literally couldn't have changed. And in those moments, we can easily slip into that victim mindset of going, I can't believe this is happening to me. And then completely let ourselves spiral. And then we actually give away all of the power that we had to the situation, to the circumstances, to whatever it is that's happened. And we actually forget who we are on a level. And I appreciate this, that whole concept can be really triggering. And especially when you're dealing with really, really difficult life circumstances. And me saying that doesn't take away from your emotional experience or the difficulty that you're experiencing in your life right now. But we have no control over the chaos that comes into our lives. The only thing that we control is how we respond to it and how we identify with it, how we allow ourselves to identify with ourselves because of those circumstances. And something that one of the key lessons for me this whole year is that we are not our circumstances. We are not the things that have happened to us. We are not the things that are currently happening to us. These are an experience, but that you don't have to completely and fully identify all of your personality into what has happened in the past or what is currently happening. We allow it to shape us, to educate us, to help us grow, to bring awareness to things about ourselves, about the world, about other people that we wouldn't have seen otherwise. But we don't have to lose ourselves into them. And for me, this is one of the reasons why healing and growth is so important. Personal growth work gives you tools and coping strategies to see and feel and recognize who you are and your potential despite what happens, because everything outside of us we have no control over. It is only the inside, the inner journey, the inner energy that we have a control over. So that being said, I know I've touched on a couple of runes. The other two runes that I've been really strongly called to were Dagaz and Gibru. Now, this is the blessing and the beauty of a new cycle following on from these chaotic energies. So if you feel that there is a lot of change, if you feel that there are things that have literally been taken out of your hands, maybe opportunities that have been taken out of your hands, maybe a relationship has ended, maybe it's a loss of some kind, have your experience, honor your experience, and, you know, recognize that this is something that you are going through in your life. But also the process is about how we grow through these energies, through these experiences. And with Dagaz and Gibru, there is fresh cycles and gifts that come through all things. Every single difficult experience has the potential to teach us something, whether it's about ourselves, whether it's about other people, whether it's about human nature in general or spiritual nature. There is always something, there is always a takeaway that we can gain from that situation emotionally or spiritually or intellectually. So I would say very much trust the journey that you are on right now, but also recognize where things no longer feel like they are working for you, where you feel like you're having to restrict yourself to fit into a box or change yourself to make other people feel comfortable. This time is all about our most authentic self-expression, of really finding out who we are. And when we can show up in that energy, that is where our power is. That is where we make the most impact, not only for ourselves and in our lives, but for everybody that we interact with. Because being around that type of energy, somebody that's in that type of energy, is just inspiring. It's grounding, but it's inspiring at the same time. You know, it feeds into just that really grounded, powerful sense of self. And being around somebody like that is wonderful, especially if you're energetically sensitive, because, you know, especially if you're energetically sensitive, if you are around people with very discordant or challenged sense of self, maybe people that can mistreat other people, you know, when you feel that you know how that feels. And what's less familiar for so many of us is being around people that truly know who they are, that are very grounded and centered in themselves, that are showing up as the most authentic version of themselves. And I want to say as well, that most authentic version of self is a present moment experience as well. This is a journey. It's not an end destination. So we hit new levels. We change with the world. I go back to the beginning of this video. As we change, as we evolve, we will keep becoming this, you know, this newest version of self. And that is how it's supposed to be. So allow yourself to change. Allow the process to unfold. And just watch the magic happen, because as you're giving out that energy, as you're more confident and more comfortable and more secure in yourself, and you're more comfortable in saying no to things that aren't feeling aligned with this version of yourself, better things come in. Those things that we hold on to, that we think we have to have, because the fear of the loss, that they'll never be replaced or better will never come, is you let that go. You literally create the space for something better to come in. And you putting in, I guess, an energetic boundary in a way, and saying, actually, no, that's not for me. The whys of why that isn't for you is a declaration, whatever it is, you know, saying, actually, I'm not going to engage in this habit or this activity anymore because I know it's self-destructive, or I know it isn't for me, or I know that I've outgrown this. It's not to hurt anybody else. You know, we can be very conscious and aware of how we approach conversations, especially with others, if it's going to impact them. We can't control how they perceive it or how they receive what it is that we're saying, but we can, again, control ourselves and how we're approaching the situation. And as we do these things, we're making those declarations that say, actually, no, I'm done with this now. I'm okay to let this go. And it's not that we do it to get better coming in, just naturally, better situations, better circumstances, better offers, whatever it may be, just feels more aligned. And it's more where you are at right now, because we will naturally attract what we're radiating, what we're emitting in our own energy fields. So there we go. I'm going to, okay, so I was really drawn to one of my own bind runes, and this one is the highest potential timeline. Now, for me, this is an altar card print of one of my paintings. This one is all about finding that highest timeline for you in the present moment. Working with the energy of this one will literally open pathways to your highest potential timeline. Now, we're getting a bit deep into, you know, like quantum physics and spirituality and where those two things cross over. You could believe that there is multiple different versions of you in different universes and different realities in existence all at the same time. And I personally believe that there are multiple different timelines of existence available to us. And choosing to select the one that is most aligned for us takes both a level of consciousness to say the no's, to put in those boundaries, to say, actually, I don't want to do this, or I'm not going to do that anymore because I feel like I can do better, or I can achieve better, or I have more to offer, or I know I've outgrown that. Making that declaration allows for the energetic shift that puts you on that highest potential timeline. So this is an invocation with the intention of stepping onto that pathway, of finding that alignment with what is destined for you and what feels most destined and aligned for you in the present moment. So this is the one that I felt I would share today. All of them do have a full description on the reverse. But these are paintings that I create, and I create them as multiple different size prints, but also as these altar cards, which you can use in meditation. I don't like giving any sort of sales pitches, but my entire store is 20% off over the weekend in case anyone would like to see what I do, the things I paint, the things I create. There you go. So I'm going to wrap this up because I've already gone on for almost half an hour, and I'm sorry. I haven't drawn runes because I've gone through the runes that have been intuitively coming through to me as I've been thinking about the creation of this video, and those very much are the energies that have been coming through. I'll make a separate post perhaps detailing those available on my Instagram, and if you want to check out what's going on over there, all of my information is in the description box below. So I love you guys. I hope you have a wonderful full moon. I will be sharing some more videos and readings and things. If there's anything I can assist you with, please feel free to let me know. I do read the comments and will reply to them as much as possible, especially over on Instagram. I seem to see them a lot more easily. But in both places, if you want me to touch on anything, if I've mentioned anything in this video you would like me to explore in more detail, just let me know. Right, I love you guys, and I'll speak to you really, really soon. Take care. Bye-bye.